For the past 2 years, Jocko Fuel has been the only supplement I've consumed. It's helped me stay in shape now that my competitive career is finished. If you've been waiting to try Jocko, the wait is over. Jocko has now teamed with Walmart, bringing clean fuel to the entire nation. Jocko Fuel is loaded with all the good stuff and none of the bad. And I'm talking no added sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and absolutely no gray area or banned substances. Just pure, clean fuel to power your performances. Jocko Fuel is now available in Walmart nationwide. Products available at your local Walmart are Jocko Malt, ready to drink, Jocko Malt Powder, and Jocko Pre-Workout. How convenient. Guys, the time is now. Consider trying some of my favorites like Jocko Go and Jocko Hydrate. You can even do it online. Use code CHAEL30 at JockoFuel.com or just stop by your local Walmart and get your hands on some Jocko ASAP. Don't wait, might not last. Fuel up with Jocko Fuel and crush your goals. Now there's no excuse for not having clean fuel. Guys, I want you to go get Jocko Fuel today at Walmart. Jorge Masvidal claims he is returning and he's gonna make that return fight in Miami. Now, I have to use that word. I also believe that Jorge Masvidal is returning. So I also would believe that Miami makes a level of sense, but it is very unusual. It would be a massive sign of respect if Jorge Masvidal was able to get a contract done for a variety of reasons. Being on a four-loss skid, for one, that's tough for anybody. To retire, to come back. Generally, if you retire off a loss, there is no comeback. Now, those are broad strokes. Would depend on the kind of fight. But moreover, is 40 years old. The UFC is just not signing that type of an athlete. They're just not. So there would be the few strikes, and I would have a hard time believing that George is coming back. Now, I must share, regardless of an ongoing spat I have with George, I would like if he came back. That would be good news. And I did look into this to a degree. Wasn't the highest level information, but said that George was in fact coming back. I was told that about 2 months ago, that he was in the pool, going through the process, was on the backside of the boxing event where they got rug pulled, that George would be coming back. But at the same time that is very difficult information to just accept with on its face. It happened to come out side by side with an announcement the UFC had made about Leon. And I had spoke to you guys over here last week and just said, hey, where's Leon? Leon appears to be the forgotten welterweight. Haven't seen anything regarding Leon, and somebody spoke to that and said, as a matter of fact, they're going back to England. It's early 2025. It will be a fight night, and it will be headlined by Leon. That was all the information we had. There was no opponent. All right, great. But I want you to understand this from my perspective. I get this two pieces of news back to back. So they're both lingering fight announcements. They both have an attachment to a card with an athlete that has an attachment geographically to the venue. But one was put out by the UFC. One was an official announcement by the UFC. And one was put out by Jorge Masvidal. And then overarching, of course, my first thought is, if Leon is back and without an opponent, and if Masvidal is back and without an opponent, it would seem like we just solved each other's problems. Now, per the press releases, again, one put out by the company, one put out by George. It had a lot to do with the same rhyme and reason, which was England, Leon, Miami, Masvidal. So I get where you'd have a problem maybe getting those guys together, but I don't think we can scratch our heads and play along that Jorge Masvidal coming back is for anything other than fun. And that's not a put down, by the way. Jorge Masvidal is fun. He will get a pop. He will get a reaction from the crowd. He will not draw in off of 4 losses. He will not draw into a star. He will not draw into a top 10 guy. He is not likely to draw into a 5-round fight, though that is certainly possible. And the point I'm attempting to make for you, George could be brought in. That's true. And he will have a job, which is to shine up a lesser known talent. And there are some really good fighters that are lesser known, that are just waiting for one of these guys with a big name to come and play with them. But it is very hard to imagine a scenario with Jorge Masvidal where he would get a win. Right? I mean, you just don't get better at something by not doing it. Not only did George retire, the guys that beat George retired. It's one of those situations where that era is just done. So if you're going to come back, it's only for one reason. You build a relationship over there. You build a relationship, people like working with you. You're still going to be in there with a hammer who you're very unlikely to beat. And I tell the story that way. Not actually because of George and I's thing. It's not actually because of that. The UFC only puts on significant fights. That's it. Every fight has a significance. There's a meaning. A victory here takes you here, for example. And if it is very unlikely that George is going to win, when we already have the deck wildly stacked against him, the age of 40, 4 losses in a row, and I'm even throwing out a boxing match. Guys who beat him are done with the sport and will never get a fight again, but he does. I'm just sharing with you. It's wildly difficult to believe that if he were to lose, that he would get yet another fight. And it would just seem there's only one fight that people want to see him have, which is Leon. And if George's announcement is accurate, right, I've got to make that leap there. George has the right to play the game and try to get himself in a position. The story that George is asking us to believe is that he's booked in Miami because Miami is the most important part, when generally the opponent would be the most important part. That's the part of this that does make me believe that George is going into business for himself. But there's a great way to manifest and manipulate in this sport. And if George is doing that, fair play. It would just seem, right? And I can't really get around that. I was in Miami. It was called 299. 2 guys, neither of which for Miami, headlined a $14+ million gate that was completely sold out. Like, we don't need George for Miami. I don't know if that's true with Leon. I think Leon being at home is more likely a very good thing. And there's no fight that anybody would rather see. There's not a fight of consequence to this degree. And if it is likely to be a one and done, it would seem like if you're doing a fight for fun, then by God, let's have some fun.